on the supercar, Kenny Wilden's number 17 Camaro is undefeated in 3 races. Competitors accuse him of having a car more powerful than the rest.
I'm sure he realizes he has an edge mechanically. He doesn't admit it in public, but I'm sure he's not stupid enough to, to claim that he doesn't have the power. When he goes by you on the straight line, he knows damn well that he did it with power.
Whether Kenny's legal or illegal, he's still beatable. There's no question. And for his sake, I hope he's legal.
Kenny's car has been scrutinized each and every event. Kenny is confident it's his driving.
My way of psyching guys out is to be overly nice to them, and because they're expecting maybe for me to be, really cocky to them, or maybe think that, well, geez, Ken's won 3 races, so he's not going to talk to us anymore. And they're playing games with me. They walk by and get their digs in and say certain things, and you just have to laugh it off and have a joke with them. Most of the guys are good. I'm not saying that guys are picking on me, because that's not the case. We're having an enjoyable time, and there's just a lot of mind games going on.
The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series on TSN.
Welcome to Exhibition Place. This is round 4 of the 1992 Eastern Players Limited GM Motorsports Series. Hello everyone, this is Pierre-Houd. There's a big crowd once again gathered here in the context of the Molson Indy in Toronto. So this race promises to be as exciting as ever. And for more on that upcoming race, here are Jim Paulson and Pat Gonzalez.
The story here in Toronto a year ago involved the 2 drivers who will sit here in row number 3. Kenny Wilden, who has dominated the series so far, having won the first 3 events. Wilden was fast qualifier, and with the inverted grid, starts 6th. But ironically, the driver who he battled with for the win here in Toronto a year ago was 2nd fastest in qualifying, and that has put John CADMAN Jr. right alongside of Kenny Wilden. Many feel this will be a real test, and perhaps the toughest test for Kenny Wilden this year, because it is also a Players Limited GM Motorsports Series West event. All of the top Western drivers are here, and their points leader, Frank Allers, was the fastest of the Western drivers. He was 6th fastest of all the times turned in, and with the inverted grid, he'll sit up there on the front row. Now here's a look at the starting grid.
Number 43 is Duncan Anderson out of the West from Langley, BC for Bronto Skylift, ready to run in Toronto.
In the number 92 Camaro is Shane Grossman, one of the leading candidates for Rookie of the Year.
Mike Hart appears in number 78 for the first time for Sony, a teammate for Paul Duckworth.
Cameron Hope out of Edmonton, Alberta. He's coming off a 12th place finish in Calgary.
For Mr. Transmission, Paul Sharp, and he will not miss Toronto, doesn't run regularly.
Nick Pozzebon, the former wrestling champion, is now in his 2nd year in the series.
Down from Edwards, Ontario, Ron Shell from Mark's Work Warehouse and the Poplar Grove Gang.
Number 61, Todd Nickel, one of the top Western drivers. He was 4th in the West a year ago.
Another Western entry from Burnaby, BC is Ron Farina in the Gold Key Firebird.
Steve Winch, the Unionville driver, will be in the Bell Cellular Camaro.
Carl Haar for Apple Computer had a hot run in Calgary from St. Albert, Alberta, ready for Toronto.
Barry Ihaxi will be driving the number 33 Singha Camaro that took Trevor Siebert to the win in Calgary.
From the home of GM, Oshawa, Ontario, Paul Mackey of Mackey moving in Bank 10.
Steve Van Flanderen out of Winnipeg, Manitoba in the Pennzoil Camaro.
A long journey from Edmonton, Alberta for Marcus Mahalchin and Steelcraft Doors, but he wants to show well today as well.
Sean Grossman out of Don Mills, Ontario, driving the Embassy Suites Camaro.
Again from the West, Michael Diening out of Calgary for Fram Bendixson Power Up. Let's hope it is.
Neil Jameson from Toronto in the HMV Camaro.
Here's a young man to keep an eye on. Wade Lee, number 79 for STP and Lee Barron Collision out of Calgary.
In car 24, Ian McIntosh from Coquitlam, British Columbia.
From Molly Black Gold out of Lac La Biche, Alberta, comes Ken Staples to Toronto.
Peter Lockhart, the 1987 Players Limited GM Motorsports Series champion, makes his only start.
Paul Duckworth for Sony out of Pickering, Ontario. Let's see how the young man does here today.
Bill Drossos out of Penticton, British Columbia, in the Tomokazu Restaurant Camaro.
Here's the grizzled veteran Tony Morris for Motomaster from Port Moody, BC.
Jacques Luliev, the 91 Rookie of the Year in the East, will be in the UAP Karcher Camaro.
Well, Rookie of the Year in 1990s here for Bank 10 Kadoki Mackie. It's Chris Davies back racing.
Craig Priddle, a front runner in Formula 2000 a year ago, one of our leading rookie contenders.
Out of Ancaster, Ontario for Mr. Lube, Tim Hortons and Big Brothers has had some great runs in the West. Joe Lapsevich Jr.
Normand Boyer out of Saint-Agathe, Quebec, one of the top Quebec drivers.
Brother of Joe, here's Jeff Lapsevich. He's looking stronger this year, too, out of Ancaster, Ontario.
Didier Scranton, the radio broadcaster, drives the Auto Pro CKMF Radio Camaro.
For Sunoco Ultra 94 in 92 out of Pickering, Ontario, Terry Betts.
Kevin Dowler, the second quickest among the Western drivers in the Mohawk Camaro.
And our Sunoco Gold Eastern fastest qualifier is Kenny Wilden. 3 straight wins this year. Going for the quartet.
John Cadman Jr. won the event here in Toronto a year ago.
Rob Fellows, here's the reigning champion, but no wins yet in 92. You know what? He's looking stronger, though.
Number 46, Peter Cohen, rises to the occasion at the big events. He'll be looking for a top finish in Toronto.
There's number 42, Richard Spenard. He's always dominated. Look out for him to be a threat in Toronto.
Number 12, Frank Allers, our fastest qualifier from the West. He wins the Mohawk Top Qualifier Award.
We're 6th, and with the inverted grid, I'm starting in the front row inside. You couldn't ask for a better starting position.
There's Frank Allers, suited up and ready to go as he sits up there on the inside of row 1. The car's about to roll off of the starting grid.
The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series is brought to you by Players Limited and GM Motorsport. It's round 4 of TSN's coverage of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series, and the drivers are on their final warm-up lap. It's an East and West points battle in Toronto today.
Well, this is the first of the big interlocking events in a very big field. You can see the cars weaving back and forth as they work their way on around in preparation for the start of this one.
Now, the Eastern points stand at this after 3 rounds. Kenny Wilden on top, 347, followed by Richard Spenard, John Cadman Jr., then Rob Fellows. Now in the West, point championship after 2 races. Frank Allers on top, 207 points. Wade Lee not far away, followed by Tony Morris and Carl Haar.
The cars behind the Camaro pace car as they roll down Lakeshore Boulevard. Some of those drivers still weaving back and forth, trying to get as much heat into their tires. It is a overcast afternoon, and now let's take a look at this course here that is comprised of the exhibition grounds on Lakeshore Boulevard through turn number 1 in about 3rd gear. The driver now accelerates as he comes out of turn number 2 around this 2.86 kilometer circuit up to about 4th gear as they begin their run flat out down Lakeshore Boulevard through this second bend in Lakeshore Boulevard up to about 5th gear. And now the driver's starting to get to the brakes, downshift all the way from 5th at about 200 kilometers an hour down to 80 kilometers an hour to get through turn number 3 as they turn back into the exhibition ground. It's a little short chute where they go up to 3rd gear, then downshift 1 back down to 2nd gear with this tight little left-hander. And now they come up to go around the fountain at the far west end of the circuit, where again they'll accelerate up through 3rd gear onto another short straightaway section where they will touch 4th gear, and here the cars are traveling about 150 kilometers an hour. Then again, hard braking, downshifting to 2nd gear with this tight right-hander, and now again in 2nd gear through 3rd gear as they accelerate off of this left-hand corner and now head by the entrance into the pits where they'll again get up to fourth gear as they come on the pit straightaway and through a very, very fast left-hand corner across the start-finish line and back into turn one.
Now that is a tricky course, Pat. There's no question. I don't know if there's, I don't know if there's an easy line around here or not. It's going to be a problem for your brakes, obviously. Maybe the tires will be all right. Weather conditions look ideal to me.
The pace car about to pull onto pit road. Frank Allers and Richard Spenard in the Motomaster Camaros will bring the field onto the pit straightaway, and all eyes focused on the flagger stand, looking for the green flag to get this one underway. There is the green flag, and we're racing in Toronto. On the inside, Peter Cohen trying to go from the second row into the lead. What a brave move by Peter Cohen as he shoots through on the inside to grab the lead from the second row. An incredible start by Cohen, Jim.
Hey, 40 Camaros and Firebirds ready to do battle on this Toronto Indy circuit now. They're into the fast part. We're talking Lakeshore, and now they scream up toward the hairpin. A lot of things can be decided here, Pat.
Cohen and Spenard running side by side. Who will go to the brakes first? Cohen with the inside line as they'll turn in off of Lakeshore Boulevard back into the exhibition grounds, and it's Cohen, your leader. Spenard running in second, but you can see the car still very tightly bunched. There's Wade Lee running a little bit further back, but up front it is Peter Cohen in the number 46 Camaro leading. There is the 32 car of Jeff Lapsovich. Some of the drivers running just a little bit wide as they're about to work their way back around to complete this opening lap.
Whoa, little incident here with Ian McIntosh, one of our visitors from the West. The number 24 Kermack entry gets a little sideways, but I think, yeah, the yellows are out, Pat. The rest of our field now getting by safely. No major incident there. He just lost control.
The freight train up front, coming up to complete lap one. Peter Cohen off to a great start. Spenard running in the second place position. And now moving up into the third place spot will be Rob Fellows in the Sunoco Ultra 94 car. There you can see Frank Allers in car number 12 running a little wide through turn one. John Cadman Jr. right behind him will close up as they run single file onto Lakeshore Boulevard. There is Kenny Wilden. He runs back in the seventh place position. Your race leader, Peter Cohen, Spenard in the draft, and now we go on board with Rob Fellows. Fellows looking for the second place position on Spenard. He takes a look down the inside as they break to come off of Lakeshore Boulevard, but Richard Spenard will hold off Rob Fellows, but there you can see Fellows right on the top of Spenard as they work their way back through the exhibition grounds. Peter Cohen, your race leader, followed by Spenard and then Fellows.
Well, I think you have to be quick through all the sections of the track. I wouldn't say that there's any particular part of the track that you have to be very quick in. You have to be quick all the way around the track, whether it's corner one or corner six or corner seven. I would say probably the back half is pretty important. There's a couple of tough turns back there, and obviously that's key in being turning quick lap times.
So the driver's line, as recommended by John Cadman Jr., his line has got him a little further back in this pack right now. Young Peter Cohen had a marvelous run in Montreal, his first appearance this year. Now he's being challenged in Toronto by Richard Spenard.
One of the overtaking spots, contact between Cohen and Rob Fellows as they came onto Lakeshore Boulevard. Spenard, your new leader, Cohen running in second, but he definitely got into it with Rob Fellows. Here is Spenard as they go into turn one. Richard, a beautiful job of outbraking Cohen going in, and then Fellows tries to follow Spenard into second place, but Cohen just slams the door shut. Contact between those two drivers. Spenard, your leader, Cohen in second. Rob Fellows runs in third. Now John Cadman Jr. has worked his way up to fourth. Kenny Wilden takes over fifth as Frank Allers drops back into the sixth place position. So Jim, they're really shuffling the running order here in the early going, but Spenard, now your new leader.
And there's that new race leader, Richard Spenard. Peter Cohen hanging on to him, and look at Rob Fellows now beginning to fly. Now, in Toronto, the big super teams are beginning to come through, Pat, and they certainly want to show off in front of this crowd. Kenny Wilden now beginning to come on as the rest of the field come through. Talk about a freight train through exhibition place and all running in very nice order.
John Cadman Jr. up.
Ronnie Farina out of it. Number 22, Pat just spins out there. Oh, look at this. He brings it around, and Farina out of the West is back in the race.
Richard Spenard, your race leader, coming back to the start-finish line of this challenging Molson Indy Circuit here in Toronto into turn number 1. They'll go 17. Kenny Wilden starting to make his move as he has climbed up into the 5th place position. Through turn 1, Spenard at the front of this freight train, and the racing very, very close, tightly bunched. And Spenard, as he runs up front, remember this is 25 laps, longer than they have ever run here in Toronto, so it'll be more demanding than it has been in past years. Richard Spenard up front. Cohen takes a look, trying to go around him on the outside as they come off of Lakeshore Boulevard. Peter Cohen right there, but no, Spenard will hold him off. Oh, contact between Fellows and Cohen, and I believe Cadman also getting hung up behind those drivers. A big traffic jam here as they came off of Lakeshore Boulevard as Fellows and Cohen got into it.
Cadman gets away. Still a problem for Cohen. He cannot get out of this trap. He's taken off some of the side paint on the other competitors. Oh, look at this. Rob Fellows will get away before Cohen does. And now Cohen brings it around. Now we literally get a traffic jam. They're away. Actually, that could have been worse, Pat. We got it cleared up rather neatly.
That incident has allowed Richard Spenard to open up a big advantage. Look at the gap that he has. Kenny Wilden got through that pileup. He's up into 2nd place now. The 12 car of Frank Allers now runs in 3rd. Let's take another look at this on Lakeshore Boulevard as Cohen pulls up alongside of Spenard, trying to go around the outside. He runs wide. Fellows gets into it, but he may have been tapped from behind by John Cadman Jr. as they were really braking at the limit coming off of Lakeshore. Let's take a look at it again. There you see, yes, Cadman gets into the back of Fellows. He slams him into Cohen. All 3 drivers involved in the incident. There's Spenard. He gets away. And there is Kenny Wilden. Just did get through that pileup. He is up in the 2nd. Running in 3rd is Frank Allers. Kevin Dowler in the Mohawk Camaro runs in the 4th place position, and then it's Terry Betts in car number 1. He runs back in the 5th place spot.
Tell you, very quick thinking for young Kenny Wilden. He caught up on that in just enough time to get around. Brings Frank Allers with him. Certainly a dramatic change up front and another spin.
Frank Allers looping it around as he came off of Lakeshore Boulevard.
Ripping the front of his car off, Pat.
And now running into Allers as he tried to get going, I believe was 34, Joe Lapsovich. Here it is on replay as we look from the back of Kenny Wilden's car. There is number 12. Allers looks like he was tapped by Kevin Dowler. And again, those drivers braking beyond the limits as they're coming off of Lakeshore Boulevard to go back in the exhibition grounds.
Now here's Kevin Dowler. That last incident significant in that Kevin Dowler now leads the western point side of this race today in Toronto, and he has literally backed Allers right out of it as we watch Kevin come through quite confidently, I might point out, for Mohawk and Fountain Tire.
There is Terry Betts running back in the 4th place position at the moment in the 2nd of the Ultra 94 Camaros. But interesting you said there, Jim, that this really is 2 races in 1. The Western drivers more concerned with those regulars from the Western Series. They, of course, would like to finish well here overall, but they'll watch those drivers that run in their home series. Same situation for the East drivers as we look at Kevin Dowler roll onto Lakeshore Boulevard. He runs 3rd overall, but more important, as you said, he is the top Western driver at this point. Richard Spenard, still your leader. Kenny Wilden running in 2nd. 3rd place driver, our Western Series leader. That is Kevin Dowler. Here is the race for 4th between the number 2 car of Terry Betts, and running right with him as they're about to come off of Lakeshore Boulevard to go back in the exhibition rounds. Great fight here going on for that 4th place position. That is Norman Boyer. Great drive for Boyer all the way up into the 5th place position. So he has obviously benefited from the early incidents we've had coming off of Lakeshore Boulevard.
So we watch Terry Betts and a very aggressive Normand Boyer. We have not seen Normand since the fight that he was involved in last year for Rookie of the Year honors against Jacques Liliev, looking quite this aggressive. But again, it's a Toronto crowd. They all want to look good, but this Ultra 94 Terry Betts man, he was on the podium last year too, wants to do it again for, well, maybe here for the first time in 92.
Didier Scranton just behind this battle for 4th place. There is Betts in the number 2 car. Boyer closing right up on him, and I believe Didier Scranton in car 94 is closing on this pair, so shortly we may have a 3-way fight going on for that 4th place position.
Hard to believe with all that action, only 5 laps have gone. Richard Spenard, the race leader, followed by Kenny Wilden, Kevin Dowler. Welcome back to This ends coverage of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series from Exhibition Place. It's the Toronto Indy. There's Kenny Wilden.
And there is your third place driver, Kevin Dowler. Now we look at the battle for fourth, and Norman Boye has taken over that fourth place position. He has moved around Terry Betts. It is still the 94 car of Didier Scranton running back in the sixth place position, but this is certainly the best drive of the year for Norman Boye.
And now for a look at this series' rising stars, John Cadman Jr. is this week's profile.
Richard's a great driver. He's always been the guy to beat in the series, and I haven't had a problem adjusting to it. You know, he's a good guy, he's a good friend, and he'll help you out any way he can. You know, I probably learned a lot from him over the years by following him, and I don't think, as far as, there's no team orders whatsoever. You know, we just go out and we do the best job we can. If one guy has a better car on a given day, or he's doing a better job out there, there's no blocking involved, there's no problems getting by each other. We're racing as a team, we're out there to do well as a team, and you know, that's key. You have to do well as a team. That's what Canadian Tire wants to see.
There's a lot of competition between me and John. John wants to prove he's the quickest, and I like to be the quickest. So I think when the green flag drops, you can't rely on anyone there to do your job. You have to do your own job and put yourself in the right position. So, you know, we're going to help each other to a certain limit, but don't expect John just to let me by and stick behind me. The first chance he'll have to pass me, he'll do it, and I'll do the same.
When we're out there practicing or testing, you know, it's a constant competition, at least in my mind. You're always I'm trying to outdo him, or I'm trying to go faster than him, but it's sort of fun, you know. We're just trying to figure out what the best setup is for our cars. We go out, he'll drive my car, I'll drive his car, and we're just trying to determine what the best setup is for the both of us.
Well, for John, 1992 was again a learning year, a chance for him to get used to a new team and a chance to learn about marketing himself and the team.
The off-track is so important. It's just as important, if not more, than the on-track. I think it's probably 90% public relations in this business, 10% racing. The on-track part of it is very important. It's important that you're running up front, that you're winning races, and you're being successful, but you definitely have to concentrate on doing a good job off-track. That's what it's all about.
John has found new challenges and new success as a part of a larger team, responding well to the new demands put upon him.
Well, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy getting out and talking to the public, meeting the public, and it doesn't bother me at all. You know, this is basically my full-time job for 6 months of the year, so I've dedicated my summer to doing that sort of thing, so it's not a problem.
John Cadman Jr., the focus on this week's profile.
John Cadman Jr. has just taken over the fifth place position, moving around number 2, Terry Betts. There you can see the damage to the front of the Motomaster Camaro of John Cadman Jr. He, of course, was involved in that incident in turn number 3, but got going quickly and has really charged up through the field. And I tell you, the fourth place car on the racetrack, Norman Boye, is not all that far ahead of Cadman, and he appears to be reeling him in. Terry Betts in the number 2 car runs in the 6th place position, and then back in 7th is Didier Scranton in the number 94 car, John Cadman Jr. up into the 5th place position, and it's really been a marvelous run back. There you can see just how far ahead on the racetrack the 4th place car is. That is Norman Boye, and as we said, this has got to be his best drive of the year for Norman Boye, but he's being reeled in by John Cadman Jr. as they head on to Lakeshore Boulevard. There is your race leader, Richard Spenard, off of Lakeshore Boulevard, making that hard turn right back into the exhibition grounds. Kenny Wilden right behind him. There's the 35 Mohawk Camaro of Kevin Dowler, then Norman Boye in the number 50 car, and then John Cadman Jr. in car number 71. The drivers really using their brakes as they come off of Lakeshore Boulevard. Remember, they're braking from about 200 kilometers an hour down to just 80.
And Matt, this week on Infotech, we look at the brakes used on these Camaros and Firebirds. The amazing thing about these GM race cars, they use conventional brake systems found on street cars.
You can use the brakes hard and need to if you're going to be competitive and run at the front. The key is to look after them well enough that you have them at the end, but you don't want too much brake at the end. It's a real balancing act, and that's one of the tough parts about driving this car. You kind of go all out, but you don't go all out, and from time to time you have to back off a little and then get at it hard again.
On a track like this, we still have to worry a little bit about it, but nothing like it used to be when the series started. You still have to brake where the car wants to brake, not where you want to brake, you know.
Braking is really a key issue in the Players GM Series. That is that these are very heavy cars, and when you get into 20, 25 lap races, especially at the road courses, the wear on the brakes becomes essential, because if you run out of brakes, you're just going to run out of time and you're going to be in a wall, or you're going to be struggling to hold your position. So braking's very important, and it's important to conserve your brakes for the end of the race for a late race charge.
And there are some tricks to brake management.
Well, we use a temperature gauge on the rotor itself that indicates, how hot the brakes are getting, and that's really useful on a track like this or some of the other places where it's really tough on the brakes. So you really have to, if you're not using one of those, you really have to have a lot of feel in the pedal. And when you get in the fade, the next corner, if you brake hard, you're not going to make the corner. So it's really useful to have that temperature gauge.
The brakes, the focus on this week's Info Tech, and they're using them here at Exhibition Place.
There is the 6th place driver in that number 2 Camaro. That is Terry Betts. And right behind him, 94, Didier Strand. And this has been a tremendous race so far. Richard Spenard still your race leader, but all the way through the top 10, we've got some extremely close racing going on. There's John Cadman Jr., and it's amazing that John is going as quickly as he is with the damage to the front of that car. Then in the 6th place position is this driver, Terry Betts. Then 94, Didier Strand.
Number 19, sorry, Matt. Cameron Hope out of the west from Edmonton, Alberta, has a little spin down in that corner 3 hairpin area, but gets away safely. He's back in the race.
Richard Spenard, your race leader. There you can see Kenny Wilden is starting to close on Richard Spenard, and I think both of these drivers are starting to clear out from 35. Kevin Dowler, the top west driver, who runs in that 3rd place position, but he's losing ground off the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. Kenny Wilden closing on Richard Spenard. There is Kevin Dowler. He's a good distance back, running all by himself in 3rd. And now we look at the battle going on for that 4th place position. Norman Boye in the Septique Nord Camaro being reeled in as 71, John Cadman Jr. does an outstanding job of outbraking him off of Lakeshore Boulevard.
Well, corner number 8, we got a Cameron Hope off one more time. Pat for Music Express, but he's right back in the race.
There's 71, Cadman on the inside of Boye. He'll take over that 4th place position. John Cadman Jr. charging back after that incident in turn 3 in the early going, has worked his way up into the 4th place position. Norman Boye runs in the 5th place spot, and again, this has got to be Boye's best driving performance of the year. Kevin Dowler really pushing that car. He runs in 3rd. He is our top west driver right now. The battle for 4th place, number 71. And now we look at John Cadman's teammate, Richard Spenard, your race leader, as he goes through turn 2 and out onto Lakeshore Boulevard. There is Kenny Wilden trying to chase him down. And you can see the margin as they run down Lakeshore Boulevard. And these 2 drivers, really the class of the field, as they continue to outdistance the 3rd place driver and the Western top runner at the moment, Kevin Dowler. Off of Lakeshore Boulevard, again, Kenny Wilden inching closer to Richard Spenard, and he has really chopped into the lead that Spenard had. Of course, Richard benefiting from that early incident in turn 3 among most of the lead cars, and Wilden was lucky he was able to get through that incident, move up into 2nd, and since then, he has been reeling in Richard Spenard.
Isn't this intriguing, actually, on the streets of Toronto? These 2 drivers going for the quartet. Richard Spenard has won 3 times in the past. He wants his 4th win here in Toronto. Kenny Wilden has won the first 3 races of the year. He wants this to be his 4th in a row.
Richard Spenard working his way back to the start-finish line. He's looking at a lead that continues to evaporate as Kenny Wilden continues to charge back up. Wilden, our fastest qualifier among the Eastern drivers, has just carved his way through the field, back through turn 1. They begin that run up through the 5-speed gearbox on these Camaros as they will be reaching about 200 kilometers an hour at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard before they get onto the brakes. And now we ride with Richard Spenard in the number 42 Motor Master Camaro as he heads down towards turn 3.
Here's the sound and experiences he's having on the course right now. Pat, let's enjoy.
Richard Spenard as he works his way up onto one of the back markers. That is the 19 car of Cameron Hope, just ahead of Spenard on the racetrack. Richard must start feeling the pressure now as Wilden continues to close. He'll see him in his rear view mirror, and Spenard's focus now may come off the racetrack and more to that man who is coming in the second place position. Number 17, Kenny Wilden, starts to reel him in, and of course, whoa, we've got a spin again coming off of Lakeshore Boulevard. That is Peter Lockhart looping around the clearly Canadian Firebird. Looks like he'll get it turned around and continue. And now Spenard comes up on Cameron Hope. He'll try to get around him here on Lakeshore Boulevard. Should not be a problem. The track about 4 lanes wide. Here is Spenard as he closes on that number 19 car, and he'll move around the Western driver with no problem. Kenny Wilden, number 17, all the time inching closer to Spenard. Let's see if Wilden is able to get around. And now Cameron Hope signaling to Kenny Wilden to go through on the inside, but no, Wilden is not able to get through, and that's going to cost him some time.
Well, that blue flag, of course, from the marshal indicating they should let Kenny Wilden by. Kenny was given the opportunity there, felt that was maybe not the safest spot to grab it, Pat.
Richard Spenard, your race leader. Kenny Wilden trying to catch back up. That probably cost him about 3 or 4 car lengths, but still, he has Spenard in his sights. And of course, Kenny Wilden has been the story of the Players Limited GM Motorsport East Series this year. Kenny has 3 starts, he has 3 wins, and has really elevated his driving as he continues to chase down Richard Spenard. Kenny Wilden in the Pringle Slick 50 Camaro, your second place driver, but in a matter of laps, you know he's going to be right there with Spenard the way he has been reeling him in for the last few laps. Spenard's still your leader, though, and it's going to be tough for Wilden to get by, no doubt about it. Spenard, your leader. Wilden running in second. It's still Kevin Dowler in the third place spot.
Just a pleasure to watch Richard Spenard, who he's got a lot of fans and friends that are here cheering him on. He rarely finishes below second, in fact, anytime he wants to run this Indy. And actually, I was thinking, this is another one of those even years, Pat, so he's due to win again this year.
Richard Spenard on Lakeshore Boulevard. Kenny Wilden inching closer as again they get on the brakes from 5th all the way down to 2nd gear. There is Peter Lockhart, the 1987 series champion. He's going again after spinning in turn 3. And there's your third place driver, Kevin Dowler in the Mohawk Camaro. John Cadman Jr. What a superb run back for John Cadman. He runs in the 4th place spot. There is your 5th place car, Norman Boye. And then in 6th, Terry Betts. 7th is the 94 car of Didier Scranton. And in 8th is the 79 car of Western driver Wade Lee.
Well, the jobs are being laid out here as we watch Joe Lapsevich coming through for Mr. Lube. Man is concentrating mainly in the West this year, but certainly wanted to come back and race in Toronto. Jacques Liliev, number 4, last year's Rookie of the Year, right on him as they disappear around the corner. And in fact, they've got their own little dice happening here sort of back in the field. And so far, Joe Lapsevich Jr. Managing to hold Liliev off.
Well, some great battles further back outside of the top 10, and a good one here between Lapsevich and Jacques Liliev, just about 3 or 4 car lengths separating that pair. These drivers know that every position means more points, and this, of course, is a pivotal event in the East and the West Series, and there is Lapsevich pushing his car at the limit.
Always a little bit of damage, isn't there, on Joe's car? I don't know if it's his luck, his aggression, but as is the story, of course, with John Cadman Jr., at least he's carrying on. But look at these 2 front runners. Now, what Spenard has got to do, I guess, Pat, is break Kenny Wilden's momentum. How can he do that when he's leading? How can Kenny Wilden break Spenard's domination? Okay.
Kenny Wilden, Jim, seems to have a big advantage down Lakeshore Boulevard. He really seems to be, oh, we've got a car into the wall.
Steve Winch, number 18, the Bell Cellular Man out of Unionville, but he's okay. He's back in the race around turn 8.
Bouncing off the tire walls, and he has continued. Here's Spenard, followed by Wilden, and Kenny, as we were saying, really gets a tremendous drive coming off of turns 1 and 2 that he carries all the way down Lakeshore Boulevard. And it's at that section of the racetrack that he appears to have a decided advantage over Richard Spenard, and he's been able to reel him in. Just a few car lengths now separating the pair as they're about to come back to the start-finish line. There you can see Spenard, your leader, Kenny Wilden in second, and at the moment this is strictly a two-driver race for the win here in Toronto. Kevin Dowler running all by himself in third, although it looks as though Dowler was being reeled in by John Cadman Jr. in car 71.
25-lap run, we're at the halfway point, and the leader is Richard Spenard. The Goodyear mid-race leader gets himself a nice new set of Eagle tires today, Pat.
Well, the question is, how much longer can Spenard hold on to the lead? Here's a battle a little further back. The 52 car.
Nick Pozzebon, yeah, he's gone astray. Holden, now Nick's not sure how to get back in here. Oh, why not a 360? Spins it around, burns up the Eagles, he's back in the race.
While those drivers have really been carrying speed down Lakeshore Boulevard and at times missing the braking point. Nice job there by Pozzebon as he continues around the racetrack. Oh, into the wall that time.
Oh, Nick has really crunched up the rear end this time. But look at this, material falling off. In fact, it could be a hazard to some of our front runners. But can Pozzebon even get it back to pit row? That'll be a question mark. He's trying to bring it home, Mama.
He has really bent up the rear of that car as we look at the entire rundown through the field. But up front, a terrific battle shaping up here between Richard Spenard and the number 42 Motormaster Camaro and 17, the current Players Limited GM Motorsports Series East points leader, Kenny Wilden, in that number 17 Pringles Slick 50 Camaro. It's just a matter of time here as Wilden continues to put the pressure on. There you see the first and second place drivers going through the section of the racetrack where there is some debris on the track, a result of the Pozzebon incident where he hit the wall. And Spenard hanging on here. Wilden continues to pour the pressure on, and shortly they're going to start to get into a lot of the heavy back marker traffic, and it'll be interesting to see which one of these two drivers are able to get around those slower cars.
And again, what we're showing is the full field lineup, of course, at the top of your screen there, Pat, just to give the fans at home and in the various towns across the country a chance to cheer their favorites on here. And the order we're running is pretty well the order they sit at this stage of the race.
Richard Spenard, your race leader, moving around a slower car down to the inside, and Wilden able to close up. But here is where Kenny has had the advantage. He really carries his momentum and speed out of turns 1 and 2 and onto Lakeshore Boulevard, and he has been able to reel in Richard Spenard, because if you can come off of turn 2 with a little higher RPM, you carry that all the way down Lakeshore Boulevard. And remember, these cars are reaching close to 200 kilometers an hour before they start to brake for turn 3. Richard Spenard making that Camaro as wide as possible as they go through turn 3. Kenny Wilden right behind.
10 laps to go, 15 are down. Will it be Spenard or Wilden? Kevin Dowler's still in third. Don't go away. Welcome back to Players Day at the Molson Indy in Toronto. The Players on a GM Motorsports Series. It's Spenard and Kenny Wilden. Here they are, the race leaders.
Just a couple of car lengths separating the two drivers as they go through turn 8. There you can see Spenard just sliding the car, and Wilden's closed right up at his rear bumper. Now Spenard has been critical of Wilden over the previous 3 events, feeling that Wilden has a car that is not exactly legal. The car has been checked out. It does in fact conform to the rules, and I think Wilden claims that he has just improved his driving in terms of his mental preparation prior to each race. He's really able to focus on his driving, and Kenny Wilden determined as he comes off of turn 2 and down Lakeshore Boulevard. Spenard with the lead, but again, Wilden getting a great drive out of turn 2. He'll close on Spenard as they head down towards the hard braking zone here just before they turn back into exhibition grounds. Kenny Wilden closing right on Spenard. He takes a look up the inside. Wilden, no, Spenard shuts the door, and Kenny Wilden will have to follow in back of Spenard, but he is really putting the pressure on Richard Spenard.
Well, the two of them have already proven what masters they can be, even in a traffic situation, Pat. So let's see which one is the better master. Again, it's the teacher, truly, in front of the student here. But boy, what a student young Kenny Wilden has been, and in this race season, he has truly proven to have learned properly, and he follows the teacher by as they deal with traffic really quite nicely.
moving around Steve Van Flanderen there in the Pennzoil car. Spenard just by a car length or two. Wilden right on his rear bumper.
Chronos. And this week on Chronos, we look at Players Limited involvement in racing. Players Limited have been long-time co-sponsors of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series, but their involvement is very large across many types of racing. As a sponsor in Atlantic Racing and the Canadian ASA Championship here. As the major sponsor, in fact, of the American Speed Association's Canadian Championship. Title sponsor of North America's oldest street race, right here at Trois-Rivières. And co-sponsor of Canada's premier showroom stock series. But the history of Players Limited involvement in racing goes back over 30 years to the Players 200, a race that featured Sterling Moss, who ran the race at Mosport and came home the winner. Players Limited brought racing to Westwood in British Columbia. They brought some great names to Canada, such as Sterling Moss, Bruce McLaren, Emerson Fittipaldi, James Hunt. Players Limited has long supported the Atlantic Series through its growth in the 70s. A series that promoted some of Canada's best young drivers. Players Limited were also supporters of Canada's stop on the Grand Prix circuit. Players Limited celebrates 30 years of racing in Canada.
And here in Toronto, we celebrate a tremendous race here in this fourth round for the Eastern drivers. The third stop for the Western Series drivers. Richard Spenard trying to hold off Kenny Wilden. And again, you saw Wilden, the great drive out of turn 2 onto Lakeshore Boulevard. Spenard moves over to block the passing attempt by Wilden. Kenny Wilden right behind Richard Spenard. Now he'll try him on the other side. Kenny Wilden on the two drivers. Contact as they get on the brakes hard to slow up for turn 3. Spenard turns in with the lead. Wilden right behind, and Kenny Wilden and Richard Spenard are having a war for the lead. Spenard would dearly love to end Wilden's winning streak here in Toronto. But right now, Wilden just trying to muscle his way around, and we've got the lead 2 cars well ahead of the third place driver, Kevin Dowler, as they'll be running in traffic here probably all the way through to the checkered flag. Kenny Wilden continues to press the pace.
We just watched Terry Betts fly by. What is happening here? This whole batch of cars involved in a tremendous fight for 5th overall. Betts still in charge. Norman Boyer right behind him. And Wade Lee certainly coming on from the west. So the Western gang still trying to look good in Toronto.
We talked about the charge back up by John Cadman Jr. Also a great run back up by Rob Fellows in the number 1 car as he is having a good run. There is number 12, Frank Aller, still one of the top Western drivers, and of course he will try to hold on to his Players Limited GM Motorsports Series West points lead that he brought here to Toronto. That is a superb 4-way fight going on for the 5th place position. Terry Betts followed by, Norman Boyer. Big spin into the tire wall in turn 1. Norman Boyer appeared to get in there just a little bit too hot. He'll get going again, but that'll drop him out of the 6th place position on the back straightaway. We look at the battle between Wilden and Spenard, and again, Spenard blocking Wilden's attempt to take the lead, and Richard will hang on, but just barely. Kenny Wilden trying to pull up alongside. Spenard will fight him off. These two drivers are just hammering on each other. Spenard holding on to the lead, but Wilden trying everything he can to get around the Motormaster Camaro of Richard Spenard.
And these are they are true power dives that Kenny Wilden is taking at Spenard. I mean, it's tough enough to try to catch up Richard Spenard, but then to try to get by him, this is where he's really proving to be the master, I think, Ben.
While Spenard able to open up maybe 2 or 3 car lengths, but Wilden able to close it right back up as they work their way out of turn 8. Spenard blocking Kenny Wilden every attempt. Spenard making that car as wide as possible as he works his way back to the start-finish line. The laps winding down. Richard Spenard now stretching it out.
5 laps remain, 20 laps are done. It's Spenard and Wilden fighting it out front. For the West, Kevin Dowler's still in third. We'll be back. Welcome back to the streets of Exhibition Place in Toronto. It's the Molson Indy, and it's another round of the Players Limited GM Motorsports Series, and another fight between Spenard and Wilden.
Kenny Wilden pulling up alongside of Richard Spenard. Wilden had dropped back about 8 to 10 car lengths. Now he has mounted another challenge, perhaps regrouping side by side in a turn 1. Kenny Wilden takes the lead. Wilden finally able to get around Spenard as they went through turn 1. He tried him time and time again on Lakeshore Boulevard, and each time Spenard would block, do whatever he could to hang on to the lead, but finally it is Kenny Wilden who's able to take over the lead, and Wilden may have caught Spenard by surprise, as I believe that's the first time he's really tried to get around Richard going into turn 1. And there is Wilden, your leader, off the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. Spenard closes up though within half a car length. Richard trying to get around Kenny Wilden, but Wilden, who has been testing Spenard for about the last 12 laps, and it looked as though Spenard tapped them in the back, but could not get around Wilden, as Wilden did a great job of keeping the car under control. But these two drivers are literally hammering on each other all the way around the racetrack. Kenny Wilden in the Pringles Slick 50 Camaro, Richard Spenard in the Motormaster Camaro, and since about lap 10, this has been strictly a 2-driver race. Wilden and Spenard through turn 8. Kenny Wilden, what a season he has had so far. He won the opener at Mosport. He took round number 2 of the East Series at Montreal. He won at Mont-Tremblant, trying to make it 4 for 4 as he comes out of the final turn and back to the start-finish line. They'll come. Spenard, with time running out, Wilden will lead them into turn 1, about 5 car lengths now. Separating the 2 drivers, they're on the last lap, and Spenard right out of shape as he goes through turn 1.
I tell you, to watch that outside pass that Kenny Wilden pulled here, the last lap, in fact, Pat, on Richard Spenard in turn 1, absolutely brilliant. Anyone would agree. No wonder young Shane Grossman back here was trying to follow these two to learn something about motorsport.
Kenny Wilden, your race leader, off of Lakeshore Boulevard now for the final time. Spenard, desperation braking, trying to close up on Wilden. He's close to within just a car length. This one is not over by any means. Wilden goes sideways. Both of these drivers in the 25 laps have really pushed these Camaros right to the limit. Kenny Wilden, Richard Spenard. It has been a tremendous race. There is Wilden. Spenard trying to chase him down, but I think he may be running out of time. Kenny Wilden, what a superb drive he has turned in here. The fastest qualifier among the East drivers. He started back in row 3, worked his way up into second, pounded Spenard lap after lap until finally, as you said, Jim, a tremendous pass going into turn 1, just a couple of corners to go. Kenny Wilden trying to bring it on home for the win here in Toronto through turn 10. 11 coming up, checkered flag out at the line. There it is. Kenny Wilden wins this 4th round of the Eastern Championship.
Now, what a different finish for Kenny this year. Last year, we saw him fling himself into that start-finish line. This time, he runs across. Kenny Wilden, the race winner, then Spenard, Cadman, Dowler, and of course, our second 5, Rob Fellows, Wade Lee coming in 6th overall, Frank Ellers, Boyer.
Last year, congratulations there from Richard Spenard. Last year, you led for most of it. John Cadman got around. This year, almost the reverse. Richard leads for most of it. You finally got around. But it looked like it may have been your toughest battle of the year so far.
It definitely was. I think that was the toughest battle I've had in this series. You know, Richard was running real well, and he was having to run a tight line to keep me behind him, but I think he knew at the end. I mean, he didn't give me a bad fight. I thought when he let me by, he was going to get behind me and try and shove me and pressure me to make a mistake, but they didn't make it, and we were both sliding, so it was just awesome racing. Slick 50 and Pringles and Bob Johnson Chevrolet. I just thank him. The car's running beautiful.
Join us next week for round 5 on the Oval at Cayuga.
It was all out. I mean, I tried as hard as I could to hold him up, and he was fast, there's no question. My car was running well. You know, you caught me by surprise at the wrong place. I really didn't think he was going to pass me there because I was able to pull away from him there every lap. And suddenly, without a mistake on my part, he was able to get side by side with me. So it caught me by surprise. And then my crew called last lap, and there was one more lap to go. So the end wasn't going well for me, but I think nevertheless we did a good show.
So Kenny Wilden continues his tremendous run in 1992, winning his 4th consecutive Players Limited GM Motorsport East Series event. We'll see you next from Cayuga Speedway. For Pierre Oud and Jim Paulson, this is Pat Gonzalez saying so long from Toronto.
The Players Limited GM Motorsports Series on TSN.